Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk news. I'm the cutest online wrestling reviewer in the world, Mr. Davis. Kawaii, kawaii, kawaii. Just like TNA before them, AEW is inevitably leaning into the meme, what's ex-WWE star with their name slightly changed doing in their impact zone? It's rather unavoidable, as because WWE has run unopposed for 2 decades, any wrestler with mainstream star value has been with that company. It's like trying to find a bankable Hollywood actor who hasn't been in a Marvel movie, and isn't blonde, or white, and a man, and called Chris. On their very first pay-per-view Double or Nothing, we got former WWE star Dean Ambrose debuting as Jon Moxley. On their very first TV episode, we got former WWE star Jack Swagger debuting as Jake Hager. And on last December's Winter is Coming special, we got former WWE star Sting. I can't think of any significant runs with other promotions he's had. Returning to wrestling as Sting! And it's gone into overdrive in the last fortnight, with the former longtime WWE veterans Paul Big Show White and Christian Cage both signing multi-year deals with AEW, shockingly choosing All Elite over contracts offered by WWE. So, who's next? Well, not that guy. Or that guy either. CM Punk to AEW. Going by Dax Harwood's Twitter account, himself a former WWE star in The Revival who jumped ship with Cash Wheeler as FTR, it appears current SmackDown wrestler Chad Gable's contract is expiring soon, and Dax wants him in AEW. Gable recently formed a heel tag team with Otis, so Otis wished Chad a happy birthday on the 8th of March, to which Chad responded, "You are my number one guy," which Dax retweeted with, "Wait, what's all this number one talk? I know you're not allowed to respond to me publicly for about 2 more months, but come on, man. He's your number one." The wording of Dax's tweet has sent speculation and mania running wild, specifically about Chad not being able to respond to Dax on Twitter for 2 months. Firstly, that implies there's a behind-the-scenes WWE ban on their talent interacting publicly with AEW stars, which isn't that surprising considering WWE imposing more control over the wrestlers' social media since last October, and the leaked banned image list from the Thunderdome production desk, including AEW. And secondly, that Chad being able to reply to Dax in 2 months means Gable will be free of said contract restrictions by then. Gable is one of the most underused wrestlers on WWE's roster, a former Olympian who can wrestle and do comedy. He's earned comparisons to Kurt Angle throughout his career. There were even plans to make Gable Kurt's illegitimate son several years back before WWE preferred Swerve and made it Jason Jordan. But despite reports Vince McMahon has been high on Gable at various points, it's only to a very short extent, booking most feuds around his lack of height and even giving him the disastrous Shorty G gimmick until last October. But as we've seen in the reported re-signings of Ricochet and Matt Riddle with WWE, bad main roster booking isn't enough to drive people away. What do you think will happen with Chad Gable? Let me know in the comments down below, because I'll be replying to people from out of cuteness. Kawaii, kawaii, kawaii. WWE's answer to Chad potentially leaving for AEW, debut more belts. Thanks for your support on Patreon, The Roller Caster, Robert Acosta, and Ryan B. Bad. Tonight's episode of NXT is being promoted around 2 game-changing announcements from the show's general manager William Regal, and now Sports Illustrated's Justin Barrasso has spoiled what they are. And unfortunately, it's not him saying War Games. The first, as the WWE Network schedule accidentally let slip last week, is that NXT will have a 2-night takeover event on Wednesday the 7th and Thursday the 8th of April in the build-up to the 2-night WrestleMania that weekend. This is the first ever 2-night takeover, with the first night airing in the usual Wednesday night slot on the USA Network, and the second being on the WWE Network and Peacock Premium. It was expected the second announcement would be NXT's heavily reported instead all but confirmed move from Wednesday to Tuesday nights. But Barrasso notes Regal will instead unveil plans to create tag team championships for their women's division, which is a great way of showcasing more of NXT's very deep roster of talent, as we saw with the first ever Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Lady Edition last month. But it does somewhat undermine the original idea behind the other set of women's tag titles in WWE, currently held by Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Those belts were meant to be the only floating championships in the company, able to be defended across Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. With NXT's own set of women's tag titles, it further draws a line between the Triple H verse of NXT 205 Live, yes, that's still actually a thing, and NXT UK, and the main roster of Raw and SmackDown, where dreams go to die. Do you think more titles in WWE is a good idea? Let me know in the comments. Calling for people who disagree with you SAWFT. Soft. Please don't actually be nasty to each other in the comments, segue. Big Cass made his shock wrestling comeback on the Lariato Pro Wrestling show last month, where he looked in fantastic shape, saving his former WWE tag partner Enzo Amore. He's now spoken to WrestleTalk.com's Louis Dangoor about his return and journey back to the ring, and whether he'd go back to WWE.
I kind of thought maybe that wasn't for me anymore. And, about 4 months ago, I decided, I woke up and with a clear head, and I was like, I really love wrestling. It is like my first love and my passion. I was like, I gotta go back. And, I could have let my addiction stop me from doing what I really want to do. I could have taken the easy road and done something a lot easier and, less fulfilling. But instead I decided I was going to come back to wrestling. And right then and there, I started taking my gym sessions very, very seriously. And the end product ended up looking good. That would be nice, but I'm not really focused on anything long-term right now. I'm willing to wrestle anywhere. Right now I'm kind of just focused on my indie bookings, and I need to focus all my energy on that because, man, the future is a beautiful mystery, to quote Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know what's in store for me. But if I was given the opportunity to go back to WWE, I would really, really do my best to prove to them that what they thought about me from the get-go was right. And but yeah, we shall see what happens, man. I just take it day by day, one day at a time, man. Tomorrow's never guaranteed, man.
You can catch that interview on last night's episode of Wrestling Daily. Subscribe over there. And the full Big Cass interview is on WrestleTalk.com. Click the link in the video description below to watch that, where he also talks about working with Enzo Amore and if there was ever any truth to them returning to NXT for the USA Network debut 2 years ago. And for extra bonus points, make WrestleTalk.com your homepage for all the latest wrestling news. We're trying to make it the best place for wrestling coverage on the whole internet. And we're putting a lot of time and energy into interviews like this to make that happen. It'd be a huge help if you could all go there as much as you can and share it around. With the reports that NXT is moving to Tuesday nights, AEW Cody Rhodes has told Action Sports Jax, "We have destroyed them for over a year now in that space, and them leaving, perhaps that opens up a different viewership for us on Wednesdays." And, obviously, a bunch of ex-WWE stars. One of these was Christian Cage, who made his surprise debut at Sunday's AEW Revolution. He's now done an interview with Renee Paquette's Oral Sessions podcast, Your Old News Talk is Jericho, where he revealed the last 7 years out has given him the proper time to heal his injuries. "I feel good, not just physically, but mentally. I'm in a good place." It was actually his unsanctioned match with Randy Orton on Raw last summer that first got him thinking about his return. WWE was so careful with him not being physically touched, as they should be, that it got Christian to start pursuing getting medically cleared. This paid off with his Royal Rumble return in January. But then he revealed who actually got in his ear about signing with AEW instead of WWE. Jon Moxley. He talked to me and had his opinions. It made me think that maybe I'm doing myself a disservice if I don't at least explore all my options at this final stage of my career. I had a conversation with Tony Khan and it escalated very quickly. It went very fast. Within a week, it was a done deal. But what about his tag team brother, Edge? Well, he was one of the very few people who knew. When I told him what I was thinking, he was very supportive. He's a great sounding board. While money is most definitely a factor, AEW's apparent willingness to give their wrestlers more creative input must be a huge reason why so many WWE stars are defecting. And nowhere is that more evident than in Revolution's street fight of Darby Allin and Sting versus Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. Speaking on the post-show scrum, Allin revealed he was involved in 90% of the cinematic match and was up for weeks producing this. He talked about having to drop out of film school, so this was a good test for his directing. AEW seems to want to develop their wrestlers, their skills, they value them. With Darby, they're allowing him to pursue his movie-making dreams while also being a wrestler. Whereas with WWE, it so often seems like they want to limit their talent from ever growing. AEW have announced Christian's first promo for tonight's episode of Dynamite, where we'll likely get our first clue of what his debut feud will be. And that's not the only thing AEW will be explaining on the show. Following the botched ending to Revolution's exploding barbed wire death match, Tony Khan has reiterated the kayfabe explanation that it was Kenny Omega's bad engineering that stopped the final bomb from going off. On his latest paid advertisement on Impact Wrestling, Khan said, "We'll find out what happened and why on tonight's Dynamite." But that was by far from the biggest announcement on last night's show, as there was some huge industry-shaking news setting up the next chapter of one of the most exciting storylines in all of wrestling right now. Here's WrestleTalk.com's Tempest with that and a roundup of everything else in the wrestling world.
It's late at night and Impact made me rewrite this entire script. Let's do this. That's right, WrestleTalk friends and fans, it is the Quizzlemania fact checker Tempest the Wrestler here, back with another edition of Tempest World of Wrestling. I guess that's what we're calling it now. If you have an idea for what to call this segment, comment down below. We will take the best suggestion. That is not a guarantee. I don't run things here. Starting off this roundup of non-WWE and AEW wrestling brands, it is Impact Wrestling, who had a pair of huge announcements at the end of their show. That's right, this coming Saturday at Sacrifice, Impact World Champion Rich Homie Swann will take on TNA Heavyweight Champion, the somehow not Canadian Moose, in a title unification match. Only one man will walk away with the titles, as the Impact World Championship and the TNA Heavyweight Championship will be merged together. But that's not the most important piece of news to come out of this show now, is it? Did you forget about Kenny Omega being a belt collector? Well, he didn't. Kenny Omega will challenge for the Impact World Championship at Rebellion on April 24th. The winner of Moose vs. Rich Swann at Sacrifice will go on to face Kenny Omega in a title-for-title match for the Impact World Championship and the AEW World Championship. If this somehow leads to Kenny Omega challenging Kota Ibushi for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, so help me God. And speaking of Kota Ibushi, he was able to defend the IWGP Double Championship against El Desperado in the main event of New Japan Pro Wrestling's 49th anniversary show last week. This of course officially merges the IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Championships into the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, a move that I've already stated I am not a fan of. But moving forward, New Japan of course has now launched the New Japan Cup. The Sweet 16 has already been decided with heavyweight names Kazuchika Okada, Tetsuya Naito, Taichi, and Tomohiro Ishii all being eliminated in the first round. In the final piece of New Japan news, they announced Wrestle Grand Slam, a two-night event taking place on May 15th and 29th in two separate baseball stadiums. The May 15th show will take place at Yokohama Stadium, the first time they have ever wrestled out of the venue, while the May 29th show will take place in the Tokyo Dome. This will mark the first time in 16 years that New Japan Pro Wrestling will run a show out of the Tokyo Dome that didn't take place in January. Before we wrap things up, a few tidbits here and there. Ring of Honor has announced their 19th anniversary show will be main evented by Roosh defending the ROH World Championship against perhaps the greatest ROH World Champion in history, Jay Lethal. And speaking of former ROH World Champions, Jay Briscoe will take on former WWE and TNA star EC3 on the show in a grudge match. Another couple tidbits real quick. The IWTV Independent Wrestling Championship changed hands this week as indie standout Lee Moriarty ended the 532-day reign of Warhorse. Moriarty has been one of the standouts on the independent wrestling scene over the last couple of years, so if you have not checked out some of his matches, I highly recommend it. And for all my WXW fans out there, the promotion taped 13 shows which began airing last week, and they will continue to run every week in place of the 16-carat tournament. That one's for you, Dan. I hope the rest of you check it out as well. And that just about wraps it up for me. I've been Tempest the Wrestler, that's JaVale McGee, that's a Blue Eyes White Dragon, and I'll see you all next week.
There was backstage fury in AEW about the botched ending to Revolution. Click the video on the right to find out more. And what the hell was that Shane McMahon segment on Raw? Click the video below that for mine and Luke's podcast review. And please, please, please go check out WrestleTalk.com for all the latest wrestling news. I've been Mr. Davis. Kawaii that kawaii.